Hello, welcome to How I See It, episode 7. Today's topic is how I see Make America Great Again. Every time I see that slogan, the same thing bubbles up into my mind. I mean, it's always an instant, give it back to the Indians. I mean, because when you look at our history, the only time that I could really say that America was great was before slavery, before the English came and took the land away from the Indians. I mean, the Indians never actually owned the land, but they didn't have to own it. I mean, they had territories that they stayed in, but they didn't own stuff the way that we own stuff, the way that the English owned stuff. And even the French, when they came, they were not as disrespectful. This is why a lot of Indians up north would have a French name. It's because they liked the French. The French were great as far as trading went. And I think that things would have worked out for the American Indian a whole lot differently had the French decided to take on the English and actually won. That's if they could have won. You know, as candy ass as a lot of our Kansans like to see the French were actually pretty smart when it came to dealing with the indigenous people here. The British, on the other hand, and this is nothing towards the current British people, but when the British would go to a place where there were indigenous people, they would enslave and, take stuff away. I mean, that's just what they've done. These are my ancestors. And when I say, if we want to make America great again, we've got to give the land back to the Indians, I'd be somebody giving back land, because I think I'm only like 136th or 138th Indian. I'm not that much. But it's really sad that they have such, they are, I think it's around 1% of our population, and this is their country. Tribes were very inclusive. If you were born to the tribe, as long as you didn't screw up royally, you were taken care of. They'd find you a job to do, whatever was within your means to do, and that's what you would do. They knew, that's Sioux territory, we don't want to mess with the Sioux. They knew where they could and couldn't be, and they knew that if they were where they shouldn't be, that there was going to be some retribution. They were very well aware of that. But as a government goes, the tribes worked out pretty good for themselves. They seemed to govern themselves pretty well, as far as, they took care of their own matters. And then the Englishmen come, and it wasn't good enough that they forced all these people over. You can't live in New York and the 13 colonies. It wasn't bad enough that they had slaves. It wasn't bad enough that they enslaved Indians. They would kill Indians just simply because he was an Indian. He's inferior. It was actually a bigger crime for an Indian to look at a white woman than for a black man to talk to a white woman. I mean, an Indian looking at a white woman could get him killed at a time when a black man could talk to a white woman. I mean, it's crazy. And it's crazy to think that at one point in time, just looking at somebody could get you killed. I mean, that's just crazy to think that people would act that way. A lot of people were outlaws that would go out to the West, and they knew that the government wanted the Apaches to die. They wanted the Apaches gone. And so these people would go around, these outlaws would go around raping, killing, and all this stuff, and scalping people, so that the average white person would just think, oh, the red man is just so vicious. He's out there scalping people. Well, Apaches didn't scalp people. That's a common misconception about Apaches, that they were vicious. Don't get me wrong. They had their own way of being vicious, but what do you expect? What do you expect? You are going into somebody's country and you're telling them, oh, you know how you've had for generations upon generations, you've had free reign to move your camp from here to here. These are your tribal lands, that here's where you're at in the summer and here's where you're at in the winter. Well, you're no longer going to be able to do that. We want you to sit in this little bitty area. We've got a couple of little crappy buildings out there and a bunch of mud, and we're going to bring you rations, to take care of you. And then if you go to those places, the rations are being picked through by the higher ups, because they're selling those rations to other people and making a profit. So the Indians were starving to death on these reservations in the beginning, especially in the beginning, because they were not getting what the government was supposed to be sending to them because of greedy people in between. And what could they do? Everybody thought of them as the savages. We shouldn't even support the savages. The savages should be eradicated. I mean, this is what they turned America into. Is a country of people who are better them than me. Not my problem. Yeah. That's what's so great about America. Better you than me. Not my problem. That's your problem. And it wasn't like that before. The Indians, this is why the Pilgrims, how the Pilgrims were able to sit down and feast with the Indians, because the Indians were nice. Most of them. And the French saw that too, that if they got along with the Indians would get along with them, that they could benefit each other. And then the English came and said, no. We want this land, we're taking this land and the rest, and we don't care what happens to you and your people. See, that's why America cannot be great again until we get back to that level of it. And it's not really, I guess it would kind of be racism, actually, to say, this is my tribe and I take care of my tribe. But there were a lot of tribes that got along. The Sioux had allies, the Cherokee had allies, the Blackfoot had allies. Everybody had allies and they had enemies. But, some of these Indians, they would take white people hostage, and those white people would become a part of their tribe. So they would have white people in their tribes. They would have, I'm guessing if they did that with white people, they would have done that with black people too. That if they would have went on a raid and they decided not to kill a little boy, that if they had a squaw who had lost a child, then they would give her the little black kid. So, they didn't always look at, okay, well, he's black, or he's white. It was, if you were good to them, then they were going to be good to you if they gave you the chance. Like I said, you knew when you were coming across certain ones that, no, this is the one I don't mess with. And that's every time I see that, Make America Great Again, I just always think about, well, it was great when it was just the Indians here. Just the Indians. They were living good. There were buffalo all over the place, and the water was clean, and life was good. Life was hard, but it was good. They stayed out of one part. They had to worry about getting raided. They did have that, but you get that when you got people I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, even in today's day and time, if you had a whole bunch of communes, there's gonna be some greedy bastard who's gonna say, you know what? I feel like beating the crap out of some people, raping some women, and killing some kids. I'm gonna hit the commune next door. There's always gonna be that guy. You can't get rid of that guy. I wish we could. We've been trying to get rid of that guy since the beginning of time. That guy always seems to exist. So, let's just get rid of the guy who says let's I know that it's not possible to make America great again. We lost that. We lost it. We can make America good. I don't think that our politicians are going to work towards that. They're too busy in it for themselves to work towards it being great for everybody. It's great for the 1%. The 99, it's hit and miss on how great stuff is. But they don't care about us. And that's the problem with the America can't be great again because of big government. Little government for little places, for communes of people, that could work. But a big government for all the people, nobody's going to be happy. Somebody's going to get the short end of the stick. And right now, it's 99% of us getting the short end of the stick. Because the 1% are paying very high. They are paying quite a bit of money to our politicians and to special groups to keep things the way that they are. And that needs to change. I mean, we can be great. We can be awesome. But we got to start holding people accountable for decisions made. I mean, when they make a bad decision, we need to know about it. Like when they make a decision that's against us, the people who put them in office, we need to be made aware of it. We need to be checking up on it and then making them accountable by not voting them in just because they're Republican and you're Republican, or they're Democrat and you're Democrat. No. If they vote the wrong way, you vote them out. That's how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to be paying attention, not saying, oh, well, he's Republican and I'm Republican and I'm just going to vote Republican and assume that he's doing what I want him to do. No. That's like saying that you raised a good son, and if you give him, like you raised this kid, and if you give him $20, you're just going to have to assume he's spending it the way you told him to spend it. No, he's going to spend it the way he wants to spend it. Hopefully, he respects you enough to spend it the way that you intended, but you can't say, well, I raised him right. No, because ultimately they're going to do what they want to do. We cannot keep letting it slide, these people voting in ways that do not help us. And we've got to take back that power. I mean, in tribes, there were quite a few people that had the chief's ear. And if the chief wasn't doing a good job, if the chief was fucking up, chief was going to be dead. Or there was going to be some kind of coup go on. Chief wasn't going to be running stuff for too much longer. Which didn't happen too much because Chief's mama was normally going, oh, they're mad at you. You better do something. So we got to do better. We've got to make these people accountable for not voting for us as we vote for them. Thanks. That's how I see making America great again.